A direction and a forward thinking that has brought the PBA to where it is now.
When I first came out on tour in 2005, they were the owners, and we were bowling on the exempt tour, and it changed my life.
We're always going to be thankful to them and all the things that they did for us.
Thanks for giving us the opportunity to pursue this as a dream job.
Certainly my generation owes them a huge debt of gratitude for all the things they did. They revolutionized the tour, they rebranded it, they re-imaged it, and basically got us to where we are today. Without their help, I'm not sure the PBA would even be the PBA.
Everyone started calling the PBA the new PBA, and 20 years later, people were still calling it the new PBA.
Without you guys, we wouldn't be where we are today. So we appreciate everything you've done for the PBA. More than deserving to go into our Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
Honestly, I just wanted to say thank you for all the years of ownership.
Those two gentlemen, along with Chris Peters and so many others before them, have given us an opportunity to compete at the highest level here on the PBA Tour. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving us a chance to live our dreams.
Congratulations and thank you.
Congratulations, guys, and thank you.
Congrats on the Hall of Fame. I hope you're as excited about it as I am. Something I grew up wanting to be in, and now we're all going to be a part of it.
That 20 years is a legendary status and puts them on par with Eddie Elias in the history of our game. And that's the reason why they belong in the PBA Hall of Fame.
Smile, Rob. And now it's time to induct the newest member and rightly earned and justly earned, Rob Glazer. Rob, please come up. We're going to give you your award right now.
Oh my God, it's beautiful. Wow, it's fantastic. Kirk, I couldn't be more grateful to have you here, and glad you were honored for your 25 years as well. Thank you so much. Someone left $1 here. I guess this is good to know that little residuals are coming out of the ownership.
That was Bo's dollar for Randy's plug.
Okay, I'm happy to take it. Exactly. So. Seriously, everybody, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank the PBA and the board for inducting me into the PBA Hall of Fame. I'm honored and deeply, deeply touched. Bowling has been an important part of my life since I was a kid growing up in Yonkers, New York. I started from about the age of 9, about the age that my son Max here is as well. Max is a bit shy, so please don't clap too loud at him coming here, but Max, thank you for joining us today. Now, of course, it started very casually with things like bowling birthday parties, and the same as it does for many kids. And I want to point out, Max, that back then a gutter ball was a gutter ball. We didn't have bumpers, so just so you know. Lincoln Park Lanes in Yonkers, New York, became my home alley, and also was kind of my home away from home. I bowled in a Saturday league there for about 5 years. The boys that I bowled with weren't really my neighbors or friends. They were just a group of kids that shared a love and a passion for bowling with me. My main team was called On the Money. Sometimes we were, sometimes we weren't. As I recall, we did win the league championship once or twice, but I wasn't the best bowler on the team. The best bowler was a kid named Tommy, who was about 2 years older. Sadly, it wasn't the Tommy who's being honored tonight. I guess if it had been, we would have won every year. So we had a good Tommy, but not a Hall of Fame Tommy. When I was about 14, I got my very first ball, and a little after that, my first pair of bowling shoes. And these are the lovely ones that I'm wearing tonight. So, may well have been the best gift my parents ever gave me, certainly one of the most long-lasting. So let's roll the clock forward to 1983. I've graduated from high school and college, moved out to Seattle to join a startup. My parents were a little worried because they'd never heard of the company and was moving 3,000 miles away. But I assured them it was okay. I was young and I could afford to take a risk. And probably, as you know, and you heard, the startup was called Microsoft, so that one worked out okay. Then when I got to Microsoft, it got even better. I met two of the most brilliant, interesting people I could ever get to know who became lifelong friends. Chris Peters, as we mentioned before, he joined the company a year before me, and he was and is one of the most resourceful people who always had the most interesting and unusual ways of looking at things and solving problems. Mike Slade, who you'll hear from in a minute, so I don't have to pump him up too much. He joined Microsoft just after I did, and he was and is one of the funniest and most creative people I've ever had a chance to know, and consider him a close friend to this day. Well, in my decade at Microsoft, unfortunately, I was so busy that I really didn't have time to bowl much, but after 10 years, I did leave Microsoft, as we mentioned, and had a little free time, so I started a team at a new bowling league. We pulled together a team. We called ourselves, of course, the Mainframes, and was our little sense of humor. Fast forward to about 1999. By then, Mike, Chris, and I had all left Microsoft. And I started this company called Real Networks, which was mentioned was kind of on a roll, so to speak. But my love of bowling had really never left me. In fact, we put a pair of bowling lanes in our new corporate headquarters, and Chris Peters heard about this, and he came to me and said, hey, I'm working on something really interesting. Would you want to talk? We went over to his house, and it turned out he'd built a pair of lanes in his beautiful house. And he'd gotten a deep dive into bowling, and he was actually gotten to where he was pretty good, good amateur level, not PBA level, but certainly solid 170, 180 type bowler. And he got into it, and we talked about it. And then he said, "Hey, I'm working on something big," and he said, "Hey, would you like to help me save the PBA?" And as I said in the quoted earlier, I said, "Well, yeah, but let's get somebody else to help us because we need somebody really creative and someone who knows sports." And Mike was the first person I thought of because Mike's somebody, maybe the only person I know whose love of sports exceeds my own. It was mentioned all the great things that he did, ESPN.com, many of the other sports sites that he started with at Starwave. So he was right in the center of sports and really understood a tremendous amount more than probably anybody I know about the convergence of sports and the internet and media. So the three of us put together this plan, and we had Chris as our lead partner. And Chris did that for about 10 years. Chris was our lead partner and worked incredibly hard at it, and we were grateful for that. Then in about 2010, Chris came to us and said he wanted to pass the baton, and I'm very grateful that Chris did pass the baton to Mike, and that Mike stepped up and was our head for another decade of our group. I do want to acknowledge Chris. He's not here tonight. I know he's in the Hall of Fame, and deservedly so, but just want to do a quick shout out to Chris, and in case he's watching on Flow, Chris has an amazing career, a new career as a successful commercial artist, but I want to make sure that everyone knows how much we feel for Chris and how much we're appreciative for everything Chris did. So a shout out to Chris. So you all heard about 2013. Mike and I are running it. Mike's leading the charge, and we decide to promote Tom Clark to commissioner. Tom was a great person to do that with. He brings this huge passion for bowling, as has been noted earlier, and incredible scrappiness and an idea of making it happen no matter what it is. And we're deeply appreciative for that. And I know I speak for Mike when I say that we're grateful that we know we wouldn't be here today in terms of where the PBA has gotten to if it weren't for Tom. So Tom, thank you for everything. So about a little over a year ago, based on a number of things going on in my life, I decided it's time to start passing the baton, and I passed it first to Mike, and then about a year later, Mike did a great job passing the baton to Bolero. I'll let Mike speak to that transition. I will say that I had a chance in some of the early discussions to get to know some of the folks like Tom Shannon and a little bit Coley in that process back when it was Bowlmore. And I will say that it's very clear to me based on what I know and what's been reaffirmed just in the last day or so, that the future of bowling is in great hands with Bolero and Cola's leadership and everyone else in that organization. So I want to thank them for everything they're doing to take bowling into the future. So finally, in addition to thanking Bolero, Chris, and Tom, and of course Mike, I want to thank the incredible athletes of the PBA, most particularly Tommy, who's being inducted tonight so deservedly, but also everyone else. There's so many amazing Hall of Famers here, and as I was reflecting on being up here today, it's just stunning to me that I'm able to receive this honor and give this acceptance speech in the presence of so many great PBA bowlers, including the greatest bowler of all time, Walter Ray Williams. So congratulations to you all. And to be here concurrent with the fifth, as he told us, Bowler of the Year honor for Jason, the most innovative bowler of our generation and maybe ever, certainly in the modern era of the PBA. It's an honor to be here with them, and I want to just point out that even if we were in a 99% handicap league, I would want any of them on my team anytime. So thank you all very much.
Congratulations, Rob. Very well done. Our next inductee is another very personable man who was in the same boat with Chris Peters and Rob Glazer. I've met him many times, not many times, but times before. He's always been wonderful. He really knows his sports. As Rob pointed out, he was involved in almost any kind of sports that's on television and involved with the internet. A very innovative man, a very personable man, and I'd like to bring him up, Hall of Famer Mike Slade.
Kirk just proposed to me. I did. But did you accept? I'm going to cry. No. Okay, this is, it doesn't, okay, I'll put it on here. I'll go like Ringo. Put it on here. All right, I'm going to put this here because I don't want to lose it. Because otherwise I will. Thank you, everybody. I have a few notes on my iPhone. So I want a couple things about my speech. It's kind of long, but there'll be an intermission, so that's okay. Nobody's told me jokes, and this is a big honor, but before I get to all that, I need to tell a couple of jokes, because, So I spent a lot of time in Palm Springs golfing and playing tennis, and I've heard a couple of good Palm Springs jokes. So the first good Palm Springs joke is, Palm Springs is a place where old people go to visit their parents. And then the second joke is that Palm Springs is a place where old rich people go to find out they're neither. That's all I got. Okay, so I like that one a lot. So it is really an honor to be here. I want to thank everybody. As Rob started to say, when you're around people who are the best at something, and I mean actually the best, not good, but the best, it's very inspiring. And I've been lucky. I've played tennis with Roger Federer. I've been around lots of really interesting people in my life. I got to work for Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, which most people didn't get to do. And so I've been around lots of really cool people who are really good at something. And to be around people who are the best at something is really an honor. And it's kind of my theme is that, you need to celebrate excellence. And I think that's the key to making any organization successful, particularly the PBAs, you have to celebrate excellence. And this is an amazing group of people, all these people from the Hall of Fame and amazing accomplishments. And, you know, this is like anything else. It's really hard. To be good at bowling is really, really, really hard. And, you know, when I talked to Walter Ray coming in, he's still in the tour. He's finishing 30th. He feels pretty good about it, and it's hard. I mean, you know, for a guy, he's obviously good at it, okay? So if he thinks it's hard, it must be hard, okay? So I guess what I'm trying to say, that is a thing to celebrate and not take for granted. So, you know, the story of how I got involved in the PBA has kind of been told. You know, I was kind of a sports nut as a little kid. I compiled sports statistics in a typewriter, and I would play 9-inning baseball games with a tennis ball against the garage and keep score against myself. You know, it's kind of Rain Man-y about sports. And then I was a sports editor in my high school paper and the sports editor in my college paper, and I worked as a daily sports writer when I was still in college for a newspaper. And then I went to Stanford Business School and got into tech and went to work at Microsoft with Rob and did lots of fun stuff there. And then when the internet started to happen, I was lucky enough to become friends with Paul Allen, the co-founder of Microsoft. And he said to me, you know, look, this is going to come. In 1992, he said, you know, the internet is going to come. There will be a connected world. Everything will be on all the time. Everybody will have everything. Just go assume it's going to happen and do a bunch of cool stuff. And so we sat in his office one day and had all these ideas. And we had 10 ideas, and 9 were stupid, and 1 was a really big sports section. So, so you know, that's a lesson for you. You might have, just because you have a lot of dumb ideas doesn't mean you don't have a smart one in there somewhere. You know, I'm sure Shakespeare wrote some bad plays. There are no crappy Beatles songs, though. But so that's the only counter proof to that thing. So. So anyway, fast forward to we built Starwave up and we sell it to Disney, and Rob and Chris, you know, really Chris was the one who had this idea. He was the one who really got the bug about the PBA, and Rob got super excited about it, and they asked me if I wanted to help, and I said sure. And one thing I will say for sure is that at that press conference 20 years ago, being in the PBA Hall of Fame was not my overriding goal. I mean, I don't mean that the way it sounds. I'm just saying it wasn't what I was thinking about, right? And come to think of it, I'm not really sure what my goal was, other than to try and turn it around. It was a challenge. It would be cool, sports. You know, the three of us figured that if we owned a league in its entirety, that we'd have some leverage that wouldn't otherwise be available. And so one of the things I did was, since I knew all these people at Disney, I literally called up Michael Eisner and said, we need to get this back on ESPN. And he's like, super! Like, what? And so we did all this negotiating and everything, and I sent him a bowling ball, and we did get it done, which was helpful, obviously, to the PBA. One of the things some of you might remember is that, so we got this new deal with ESPN done, and we were going to launch the new season of the PBA, and it was going to launch in September of 2001, and 9/11 happened. So we actually had to postpone the launch for a week. It was the Peoria Open. I've never been to Peoria, but that's where it was. And so it went on TV a week later. So 9/11 was on a Monday, so Sunday was 9/17. It was 9/24 we did it. And so it was in Peoria. And so somebody decided we'd get a famous person to do the national anthem. And so they got this person who was a Grammy Award-winning jazz singer named Coco Taylor to come down from Chicago to sing the national anthem. This is on YouTube. So you all need to go to YouTube and find this. And it's pretty, I didn't type in many characters and it popped right up on YouTube, okay, just so you know. And so she went out there and she screwed up the national anthem. And Tom and I watched it before this afternoon again, because we like whip each other with, you know. And she screws up the first line. Okay, oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light. I mean, I got that. She got dawn's early light wrong. So when I went down there from there, the first bowler came up and he bowled a gutter ball on the first. I'm not making this up. So we were a little worried, like, you know, this is going to be a little harder than we thought, you know. He did score in the match. He didn't get a 0, but he did have 1 gutter ball. So that's good to know. So the thing about the PBA is that it was really interesting because, you know, not everything went well, obviously, in the 20 years that we were involved. Some things went really well, some things didn't. You know, one of the things you learn about getting a career in business is that most meetings you're in are about things that are screwed up, not about like, isn't this great? You know, the isn't this great part's usually like 30 seconds, and this is screwed up part is like 10 an hour or 2, you know, so it can get a little bit of a bummer. But we learned a lot. We had good people helping us, and ESPN was a good partner. They were not a fabulous partner. They were a good partner. Most of the time we were involved with ESPN, they were the only sports network in town, so it was hard to get a lot of leverage with a monopolist, as it usually is. So here are some highlights for me. I met a ton of cool people, both in the industry and around the industry. I thought and still think that being at a live PBA event is way cooler than watching it on TV, and I still think there's a huge opportunity to make more of that than what we have done over the last 20 years. We tried lots of different things. You know, we had an opener at the Milwaukee Brewers baseball park. We did things outdoors, all sorts of crazy stuff. We rented an arena at Mohegan Sun a couple times and had 3,000 or 4,000 people in it. But in general, I think a good PBA match has the atmosphere of like either a boxing match or a small college NCAA Division I basketball game. Like it's really intense and it's kind of personal, and you kind of want not a few hundred people, but a couple thousand people in there making a lot of noise. You don't need 10,000. You know, the best example of it is the thing in Maine every year, which has that crazy, even though it's a little bit small, it has a crazy amount of atmosphere, and it's really, really good television, let me tell you. It's fabulous, and I'm so glad they do such a fabulous job. And the other thing is that when you're an underdog, which the PBA is relative to, say, you know, football or baseball or basketball, it's not as big, you got to be scrappy and you got to try things and fail fast and be aggressive. And then one of the things that's really interesting about bowling is that, you know, when we took it over, there was all this negative data about league bowling was on the decline and bowling was passe, and the guys we tried to sell ads to didn't like the demographics and everything. And what's really interesting is how much more au courant and popular bowling and things like it are now than they were 10 or 15 years ago. And I think this is a direct result of this generation, is that because you spend so much time interacting with devices instead of sitting around the house watching TV, that when you get out, you want it to be really cool and visceral rather than just hanging out at, you know, Applebee's, right? And so, like, that's why Topgolf is so popular, because Topgolf is way more fun than going golfing. I mean, I golf all the time. Golf is fun, but it's really, really hard. And Topgolf is just fun, where you can get drunk and whack golf balls. And so, I mean, it is fun. And so, the reason that's it, but the reason that's important is that bowling has the same property in that if you haven't bowled much or at all, it's hard to get really, really good at bowling, but it's not hard to have a fun time. Like, it's impossible to go play tennis if you suck at it, right? It's impossible. The ball never goes over the net, right? You know, golf, right? You know, tackle football, right? You can't even throw a spiral. But you can go bowling, and it doesn't take that much work to bowl 100, right? I mean, I bet almost anybody, you know, you meet, if you gave them enough time, they could bowl 100 pretty easy, which is not fabulous, but it's not horrible, right? And so the reason I say that is that, what? That's about my average, by the way. But what I was going to say was that there's an opportunity there for this industry, which is that big opportunities come from people who aspire to excellence. And the way you aspire to excellence is to celebrate excellence. So anybody who's got the golf bug, for example, knows who the best golfers are, wants to be like them, knows all about their swing, will never be like them, but wants to be like them. I have actually played tennis with Roger Federer. I love tennis. I want to be like Roger Federer. I will not ever be like Roger Federer, but I still want to be, okay? And so the reason I say that is I think the biggest opportunity in this industry relative to today versus where it could be is that most bowling centers still don't celebrate the excellence of the PBA as much as they should or could. And to me, that's a crime, because it is watching good bowling. The funny thing is, it's not a thing that if it was done by every single bowling center in America would just help the PBA. You know, the economics of a bowling center are pretty simple. If people come back, it's good. And if they don't, it's not as good, right? I mean, I'm sorry, I think I got it, right? That's pretty much it. I think I've nailed the business model, okay? If people come bowling and they don't come back, that's bad. And if they do come back, that's less bad. If they come back again, that's even less bad, et cetera, right? So, because you only got so many, you have capacity you want to fill up. So, celebrating the excellence of the PBA in a major way is the thing that I wish we could have done a better job of, and I think could be done. And one of the reasons I was so excited to work with Bolero on the world's longest acquisition, which took several fits and starts. We almost got married a couple times and broke up in the chapel in Vegas, and then we finally got married, is that they have only excellent centers. And so kind of their business plan is, we only want our centers to all be excellent. And if you don't think so, just go to one. They give you that ambience. And so I always thought that as hard as we tried, we needed a scale partner to make it go to the extra mile. And so the fact that Bowlero is involved is fabulous, because they are in a position to celebrate that excellence in front of millions of people, not thousands of people at a time, which is a funny way. You'd think that scale was all about like the internet and everything, but scale is really about people going into a place. Go to an Apple store sometime, right? Apple gets way more benefit from the people going to their store than they do from just their website, okay? Because it's such a cool experience, and it's the same going bowling and celebrating bowling and seeing it. So I'm super excited about that, and I think they're going to be a fabulous partner. I know lots of them. They're great people, and they run a really good business, which is always a good sign. So that's kind of the thing that I feel the most strongly about. And the last thing I would say to you guys is, I'm just so grateful. This is a huge honor. I'm humbled by it, because you people are all really, really good at what you do, and to be in the same pantheon is kind of amazing. And I would just say that, I worked for a lot of really interesting people, and I became a very close personal friend of Steve Jobs, and I still miss him every day. And the single best thing about him was that if something wasn't excellent, he just canceled it. He didn't ever do anything mediocre. And sometimes he canceled things he shouldn't have canceled. Sometimes he was a rude asshole in meetings. Sometimes, most of the time. And but it's because he only wanted to do things that were really, 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 really good, and not just sort of good. And that's the way to think about the PBA, is that you have the world's greatest bowlers. Everything that is around them and supports them and showcases them and literally makes love to them should be done in an excellent way. And they deserve it. So anyway, thank you so much, and it's really an honor.
Very well put, Mike and Rob. And Coley and Tom, I couldn't help but watch both of you as that inspirational cheerleading Mike Slade just put it right on the line, and you guys can do it. We're going forward. They believe in it. I think everybody else will believe it. And I do like what they're saying, the new setting. Coley, you got your hands full, but you can do it. All right. Now we're getting down to the one guy that qualified to do what Mike Slade and Rob Glazer talked about. That is the portion of excellence in a sport. And I was just thinking, I don't know how many billion people are in this world. I guess 4 or 5 billion. And do you realize that there are people in this room that can beat every single one of them at one venture? It's mind-boggling. You take a Walter Ray or Tommy Jones who's going in, and all the other superstars that are here, that there are 5 billion people in this world that can't beat you at something. That's hard to say when you really think about it. I don't care if you're a doctor or a lawyer or anything. There's lots of guys who can beat you, but not in bowling. So we got the crowd, we got the inspiration, and now we're going to put the new top dog in, Tommy Jones. First place, I'm going to give you a little background on my feeling of the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame stands alone as the premier bowling Hall of Fame. It is reserved for just the very few. The credentials alone to get on the ballot are 10 PBA titles, or 7 titles, 2 majors, and 20 years of service. All this guarantees that only the best ever that have ever lived are inducted. There is no nepotism in the PBA Hall of Fame. Your uncle can't get you in. the wannabes don't get on the ballot. This is the PBA Hall of Fame. This is number one. I have bowled in tournaments with every single PBA Hall of Fame member, which I don't know how many other, maybe Carmen Salvino has done that, but I have bowled in tournaments with every one of them. And what I have noticed is not only their super ability and their athleticism, I've observed, and I've looked at guys that I bowled against who are U.S. Open champions and all that out there, 4 qualities that I have seen in all the Hall of Famers. I'm talking about the guys who earned it back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s going forward. The Hall of Famers typically and physically don't throw the ball much better than other top professionals. But they have, in my opinion, these 4 qualities. Number one, they get better as the tournament goes on, especially in the majors. The majors, when I was young, the U.S. Open was 100 games. In 1966, Dick Weber beat me by 3 pins. It was 115 games. The guys that get to the Hall of Fame, when they win majors, they keep going, going, going. They just don't stumble in it. They're like the little engine that could. They keeps climbing and climbing. That's number one. Number two is one that the pros that are sitting in here that are Hall of Famers, and even the ones that aren't, need to recognize or are not put down. And that is the ability to read lanes quicker and faster than any opponent. There's not a bowler in here, and I know all these young guys that watch, that the guy next to you who bowls on the tour, that you can spot him one frame and end up ahead of him at the end of the day. So once again, if I'm even passing along something to young guys who want to someday come up here and get what Tommy Jones is going, be sharp, concentrate on reading the lanes. It's still the very most important. The ball will not go in the pocket, as you all know, on a consistent basis if you're not throwing it the right way in the right place. Number three, Hall of Famers have the concentration and confidence to throw their very best shot in the clutch. Now, I grew up in a family of bowlers, and a guy who hung around as actually the godfather of all Texas bowling, Buddy Bomar, who won the U.S. Open in 1945, a 100-game tournament, and bowled a fabulous score, unheard of back then, of 279 in the last game. Bomar was known for his clutch bowling. And all these guys, and we have 10 U.S. Open champions from Texas, just to brag on it a little bit. My family's from Texas, too. Bomar used to say at dinner on the PBA, throw a Sunday ball. Now, what did he mean by a Sunday ball? Who stands up there after all the games and for all the wheat can pull that one shot out, that one, you can't do it every time, and throw that ball for the title. Hall of Famers do that on a consistent basis. The Sunday ball, Randy. I expect to hear that sometime. Break that out. And finally, one thing is obvious is 20 years, it takes perseverance. There are going to be good times. All of us pros in here know that. There are going to be bad times. There are going to be slumps. There's going to be doubts. But it takes 20 years. There have been wood lanes in my career, and all these guys here, synthetic lanes, inside shots, outside shots. I just wrote some stuff down. Low scores, high scores, rubber ball, plastic balls. For some of you youngers, soakers, where Don McCune soaked the ball in there. Now we have urethane balls and reactive resin balls, short oil, long oil, STP. It's all out there. But the Hall of Famer does much like the biblical quote from Timothy. He runs the good race. He fights the good fight. He perseveres and prevails. It has been said that it's not necessarily the strongest and the fastest to get to the PBA Hall of Fame, but the player that can persevere by adapting and changing to whatever environment is out there. And tonight, I have one guy who has checked off all those boxes to get in the Hall of Fame that I just mentioned, and his name is Tommy Jones. I'm going to give you a little bit of his bio before we watch a video of Tommy. Tommy is one of 5 players to win both the PBA Rookie of the Year and Player of the Year honors. He has earned more than $1.7 million in PBA earnings in 20 years, and Coley just set him up with another $100,000 down in Jupiter Lanes near my house last week. If you watched on was it the Elite Bowling Series, Tom? Okay, he won 100,000. That's not it again. In his 20-year career, as a 41-year-old power player, he owns 17 standard PBA titles and 2 majors: the 2006 U.S. Open and the 2007 PBA Tournament of Champions. He has finished in the top 10 in annual earnings. How many times? 9 times in his career, and has finished in the top 5 in 47 of the 326 tournaments that he's competed in his career, cashing in a remarkable 80% of every tournament he entered. He's an 11-time member of Team USA. Jones also has been on the winning team in the PBA League Elias Cup competition 3 times and was the recipient of the PBA League Mark Roth Award for the most valuable player. He is also known among his peers as the player that can throw the Sunday ball. One of his great accomplishments, and I can testify it, and a lot of you guys too, is winning 15 consecutive matches on television. You just, until you've stood in those shoes and bowled against those guys, that is just absolutely remarkable. Now let's take a little look at part of Tommy Jones' career.
Is this the time for Tommy Jones?
He balls for a major championship. Gets 9. Gets the title. Tommy Jones wins the 2006 U.S. Open. That's right! He is jacked up, Randy. Goes for the 20. Yes! That's right! Come on! Dallas Strikers, PBA Elias Cup champions.
Title 19 for Tommy Jones.
Kicks it. Goes for 7 straight. Passing.
Wow. And look at that demeanor, just as calm and unassuming as you could imagine. Look at him.
So what else is new? It's Tommy Jones, who's been red hot on tour.
And now presenting Tommy Jones his award will be a man who's his good friend, a man who has sponsored over 120 men and women professional bowlers on tour. Please welcome Lee Leventis. Lee?
Wow, thank you. I've always wanted to say thank you, Bo. You know, it is, and thank you, Randy, it is very difficult to follow Rob Glazer and Mike Slade and Bo Burton, but I'm going to attempt to do it. I've got a script, because otherwise to talk about my buddy Tommy Jones and to talk about my love of bowling, it would be a whole lot longer than you would probably want to listen to me for. So I've scripted it out. When I was 10 years old, my dad took me bowling for the very first time, and I've been hooked on this sport ever since. When I was 12 years old, I decided I wanted to be a professional bowler. I wanted to be one of the PBA's elite. I wanted to belong to an organization which I knew would happen, that being the PBA Hall of Fame. My dad had other dreams for me, and that is to become a lawyer. He always told me I was going to be a lawyer. When I turned 24, his dream for me was realized. I did become a lawyer, and I've been practicing law for 41 years, and I'm thankful for that. But my dream didn't come true, that of being a professional bowler. What I figured is my dad's dream was realized. Mine was going to be postponed for just a little while so I could continue to practice where I might get good enough to come out here and attempt to compete with the world's greatest. In 1978, I sponsored Guppy Troop, Kyle's dad. And Guppy was my childhood friend, my lifelong friend, and my sponsorship of him was my way of staying in touch or being a part of the PBA. Over the next 35 years, I was fortunate enough, in Bow it was about 150 bowlers rather than 120 bowlers, that I sponsored both on the men's tour and the women's tour in national events and regional events. In the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, I always had between 10 and 16 players in every PBA event. This was my way of being a part of the PBA, my way of giving young people an opportunity to realize their lifelong dream, and was a fun and exciting time in my life. In 1998, my friend Jeff Bellinger, who I sponsored on the tour and who also is a lifelong friend of mine, and who was also my agent on the national tour. Basically, if a bowler wanted me to consider a sponsorship, they would approach Jeff. And then Jeff would call me, as Chuck knows, I see him shaking his head back there, as Chuck knows, and Jeff would call me and say, Lee, Randy Peterson wants to talk with you. And what an honor talking to Randy Peterson was. He's the most colorful guy I ever sponsored, even more colorful than Guppy Troop, believe it or not. But anyway, Jeff was my agent. Jeff told me, he said, Lee, there's this 18-year-old kid from Simpsonville, South Carolina, that you might want to consider sponsoring, and his name is Tommy Jones. I'd never heard of Tommy. So Jeff, tell me a little bit about Tommy. And his 4 words to me were, the boy can strike. So Tommy and I, we never met. We communicated. We agreed on a sponsorship agreement. And that started a relationship between the two of us that has been very special to me for the past 22 years. Jeff was definitely right. The boy can strike. But as we saw over there, even I saw all those tournaments, and I was still amazed at the replays that he was still striking. But nonetheless, he was right. But what I also learned about Tommy is he is an exceptional athlete. A lot of people may or may not know that as a senior in high school at Greenville High, Tommy was selected to the all-conference baseball team as a shortstop. Additionally, we know he can strike with a bowling ball, but he can definitely strike a golf ball as well, because even to today, and his friends will acknowledge, he plays to a very low handicap score. That's Linda's husband who threw in a little remark. Okay. Yeah. What's your name? Chris. Yeah, Chris. That was Linda's husband. I hope that is how Chris Barnes gets to be known, by the way, out here. It's Linda's husband. Already? There you go. Thank you, Kurt. The bond which Tommy and I have is much more than a business relationship. It is like a father-son relationship. Tommy is a Hall of Famer. both professionally and personally. I love Tommy Jones, the man that he's become and the person that he is. He is the kind of kid or kind of son that every father would want to have or want his son to be like. He is respectful to everyone, honest, polite, and courteous. He is modest and humble, does not speak ill of anyone, and is always helpful to anyone who needs his assistance in any manner. Tommy is a loving son to his mother, Linda, a devoted father to his daughter, Ella, a good boyfriend to his sweet and lovely girlfriend, Danielle, and a loyal friend to those of his buddies that he associates with. Perfect example of that is we got 4 guys down here that I met who were Tommy's buddies. You got Josh, Stephen, Craig, and Jay. 4 guys I met yesterday. They are here. They flew in from Greenville, South Carolina to support their good friend Tommy Jones in a weekend that is so important to Tommy. And that speaks volumes about the type of person Tommy is and the friendships he has with people. The one story which speaks volumes to me about Tommy and which epitomizes the person he is and concerns his loyalty is this story. As his career was beginning to take off, he always said I would be a part of his career and I would always be his sponsor. Granted, he did need me at first, but after a few years, he really didn't anymore. I told him on several occasions that he no longer needed my sponsorship and our relationship does not need the business aspect. He would have no part of that. He told me, he said, I told you that you would always be a part of my career, and that's just the way it was going to be. Finally, after 13, 14 years, said, Tommy, I don't want to sponsor you anymore. Said, you're fired. And that was probably about 8 or 9 years ago. He didn't need me anymore, and he did it out of loyalty, and I finally insisted no more. But as I knew, and as I'm sure Tommy knew, we were beyond the business relationship. Tommy and I are forever a part of each other's lives. I always knew this day would come for Tommy. His career has been epic. Bo stole my thunder a little bit, so I'm going to repeat some of it. But Tommy is one of only 5 people to be both PBA Rookie of the Year and PBA Player of the Year, being Rookie of the Year in 01 and 02, and Player of the Year, I believe it was 06 and 07. In consecutive years, he pulled a Jason Belmonte. He won 4 titles in each of those back-to-back years, and he was dominant on the PBA Tour. He is a 12-time member of Team USA. He's won 19 national titles, which includes 2 majors. He has 14 regional titles, and as I say, is a 12-time member of Team USA. He is a member of Norm Duke's PBA Elias Cup team, and in fact, he's Norm's anchorman. And who better than Norm Duke to pick a person to hold the anchor spot when a clutch shot is needed than Norm Duke, who has selected Tommy Jones. It speaks volumes of Tommy's clutch performances. Tommy recently won the 3rd leg of the Bolero Invitational in December. Even though that was not a national title, it was extremely special. What a great and fitting way to end the 2019 bowling season, and in fact to end the decade, and a great way to segue into the 2020 bowling season and into a new decade. But what a tough week this is to segue into the 2020 bowling season and into a new decade. some of the guys in here know, those Hall of Famers, Randy, Parker, Chris, the others who made the Hall of Fame. But you know how tough it is to come bowl a tournament when you're getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. Add to that the extra pressure of having people come here that you know and love to watch you. His mom, Linda, is here. She has never watched a PBA national event in person. She's here. His daughter, Ella, is here, and she hasn't seen many. His girlfriend, Danielle, is here. His 4 buddies from Greenville are here. And I'm here. Tommy and I are pretty tight. So whether he wants to acknowledge it or not, he had to feel extra pressure. When he picked me up from the hotel on Thursday night, I was a little nervous to ask, but I did ask him. I said, Tommy, how'd you bowl? And he said, well, I'm 5th on my squad, so I look pretty good. And I said, awesome, that's great, that's what I wanted to hear. We go to the bowl, and we soon find out that 5th on the squad might not be good enough. Everybody kept striking, everybody. Finally, when the dust settled, Tommy, with no room to spare, qualified 14th and made the final spot to match play, for which we were all tickled and excited. Tommy was relentless. He was determined that he was going to make the show. He started out yesterday, won the first 4 matches, went from 14th to 1st. Boy, that was awesome. We were fired up. And then, bam, as fate would have it, he lost the next 3. So he's down to 7th, 33 off the show going into yesterday. We're all excited for him. We're all nervous for him. We all want to see him make the show. He starts out pretty doggone well in vintage Tommy Jones fashion. He started throwing a lot of strikes. And in about game 4 or game 5, when it appeared that Tommy had a good shot at making the show, I had an opportunity, which I'll never forget, to have a great conversation with Tom Clark, who I was sitting next to. And Tom told me about the history of the PBA Hall of Fame. And he said in all the years of PBA Hall of Fame history, only 3 players who have been inducted made the show in the tournament following their induction into the Hall of Fame. Never has anybody made a show where the show would be less than 24 hours after their induction into the Hall of Fame. As I started thinking about that special thing that Tom had mentioned, I got nervous. I thought, Tommy has got a shot at making PBA Hall of Fame history by qualifying for this show. And sure enough, and all you guys and girls here know how tough it is, Tommy went 7-0 in yesterday's match play competition. And he qualified 2nd, which was just awesome, which means that Tommy, of course, needs to win 2 matches, and I guess you got Oskew and Darren and Jacob and Linda's husband who are trying to stand in the way of Tommy making that happen. And I will say that I can't wait to see which of these 2 bowlers, both of them have 19 titles, becomes the first to win their 20th title. Will it be Tommy Jones or will it be Linda's husband? And maybe we'll learn that tomorrow. I do have to throw one jab in at Tommy. As great as his performance has been, as awesome as our having been here for 2 days has been, Tommy, you do have to win 2 matches tomorrow. In case you didn't know that qualifying 2nd means you got to win 2 matches to win the tournament. If you had only missed 3 single pins yesterday instead of 5, you would have led qualifying and only had to win 1 match. Just to let you know that. I do hope that you have drilled up a single pin spare ball for tomorrow. When Tommy called me and told me about the induction, he asked and insisted that I come and introduce him to the special event for him. I was honored, touched, and excited, and immediately told him I wouldn't miss it for anything. After we hung up, I had a brief moment of reflection, a somber thought, if you would. Through Tommy Jones, my childhood dream has been realized. I have made it to the PBA Hall of Fame. Now it is my distinct honor, my privilege, and my pleasure to introduce you to bowling's newest member of the PBA Hall of Fame, my dear friend Tommy Jones.
Chris, you got a pen? I need to change the part about you to Linda's husband. Truly like that way better. So, there's a lot been said tonight. Congratulations, Mr. Slade, Mr. Glazer. I think it's an honor to be inducted in the Hall of Fame with you guys. All the other award winners tonight over here, Belmo, Michael Holloman, Chuck, Martin. Thank you, Martin, especially for not letting me win Steve Nagy. That's the end of a career, according to Bill. If you win Steve Nagy, you're the nice guy. You literally can't do anything else. So that's just Bill's rule, not mine. Don't worry, Chris, you were never going to win. So I grew up a huge fan of bowling. All of my heroes were bowlers. Majority of you are in this room. Yes, there are people in this room older than me. Who? Who said not me? Not me. Oh, that's not nicely. I've been fortunate enough to bowl on a team with Pete Weber. Been fortunate enough to be on a league team with Norm Duke, two of my lifelong heroes. Fortunate enough to win 2 Elias Cups with Norm Duke, won one with Chris Barnes. You know, Chris does a great job of setting me up for success early on in those matches. After I found out that I was going to be inducted in the Hall of Fame, I received a text from Mark Roth. And Mark welcomed me to the Hall of Fame, told me, congratulations. I then thanked him for basically giving me something to watch on Saturdays, giving me something to aspire to be. He then told me, thank you for giving him something to watch on Sundays. Never been more surprised in my life. You don't get here without so many people's help. Lee obviously has helped me more than you could ever imagine. My parents, they took me everywhere to bowl. They didn't even freak out when I told them I was going to go bowl on tour and not go to college. Not a good idea, Ellie, you're going to college. I don't know what your plan is, but it's going to be college. Lee had never seen me throw a shot. He backed me. We lost 10,000 our first 2 years bowling the amateur stuff. Told me it was going to be okay, that everybody said it was going to be just fine. We'd make our money back. First time Lee ever saw me throw a shot was my first show at the Orleans in Las Vegas. I didn't win. I was beat by Ricky Ward. He got a BS strike. If any of you guys are historians of bowling like me, he punched the approach and called me a rat, something I can't say. But at the end of the day, that was my first show and the first time Lee ever saw me throw a bowling ball. He backed me from 1998 till 2012. He became a lifelong friend, father figure, someone that I call upon when I need advice. Jason Couch introduced me to Brian Purcell at the time it was Ebonite. And he basically invited me into the office, signed me to a 2-year contract, and I realized I was going to get paid to do this. I was going to get paid to throw a bowling ball. How cool is that? I was 20 years old. That was my dream. That's what was going to happen. Over the years, there's been lots of people that I've been fortunate enough to be, part of and bosses. I've spent my entire career with Ebonite. Obviously, you guys know a little bit about the bombshell in the bowling industry, but we're not going to talk about that a whole lot tonight. Everybody that was involved has done an unbelievable job of taking care of us. But Brian Purcell, Ed Gallagher, Bugsy Kelly, and then the slave driver himself, Rob Gottschall. You guys have been my bosses and my friends, and Rob, you worked me to death more than anybody I'll ever know. So hopefully, in your new profession, that the people below you don't feel quite as slave-driven as you did make me. Other staffs that I've been a part of to help me get this, I was on staff with Turbo 2-in-1 Grips, Dexter, Ultimate Inserts, and then my current sponsors, Genesis, Vice, High Five Gear, and Ebonite. Noel at Genesis, John Nakashima and Jim Nesbitt at Vice, Todd Molbeck at High Five, thank you for all you guys do for me. Let's see where we at here. We're not going to address that part right there. We're going to leave that one alone. All right. So, coaches, all the Team USA coaches, Rod, thank you. Jerry Edwards, Kim Kearney, Brian O'Keefe, I've learned so many things from you guys. The amazing things that you've taught me from bowling, personally, being around the world, wearing red, white, and blue. Can't say enough about you and the facility. Chad, at your house, I'm not going to roast you, even though I would really like to, but part of me, I truly do love you. We spent a lot of times back at the Showboat, the High Roller. I've had many interesting conversations, I would say. Your beautiful wife, Jennifer, I knew her before I knew you. It's awesome to know where we've come in this sport that we love. Let's see. Now that we got the thank yous out of the way, well, actually, we got one more. Got to thank Mark Baker. He's the coach that's basically helped me with so much. I can't say enough about the things that he's done for me, the way he's helped me through all kinds of things. Answers a text, answers a call, helped me get back to being able to compete with all you young kids in here. Obviously, being up here means I'm older than most of you, and greatly appreciate all his support. Ball reps that I've worked with, Del Ballard, you taught me how to bowl. I came on tour, didn't know how to bowl. You taught me how to bowl. I appreciate that. Rob, you were a ball rep too. You asked things of me that I didn't think I could do, and most of the time I couldn't do them, but you did ask them. But I tried for you. Sean Ryan, you're the go-to ball reps right now. I don't know if you're here, but your knowledge is incredible. Wolf, I'm going to get to you, but don't worry, you're in the other side of this. All right, so all that's out of the way. Hopefully, a couple of you are about to get nervous. Because now I don't have to be politically correct. Billy. I don't want to leave you out because Belmo says you get mad. I don't really think you get mad, but maybe you do. But you're the best man I know, to be honest. Even if you left your wingman. Last year, Billy won here. His mom passed away. And shockingly, DJ and I stopped at a casino. Shockingly. watching on my phone, Billy wins, tears rolling down my face, and all I can hear is Mary going, "Tommy, stop crying, you little bitch." Literally all I could hear. But I love you. Oh, man. Oh, this won't be hard. Chris, or Linda's husband. This part's easy. I can stop crying. As Stu says, they tell you to never meet your heroes. Woo. Woo. Let me tell you, never been farther from the truth. Chris, you are a Scrooge. You are extremely cheap, but you are one of my best friends. I used to couldn't wait to get magazines to find out what you did last, the mullet, the terrible reading glasses that you had. Apparently you had less friends then you do now to tell you those were not correct to wear. But we've been friends for 20 years now. We bowl doubles together because probably nobody will bowl with you, and I got routed in because I don't even know why. Wes was bowling with Norm, and there's this guy named Belmo. It turns out he's really good, and I already asked Bill. So either way, we'll do it till we die. Hopefully, that would be a really cool way to get to 21 and 20 titles. Hopefully, hoping you need a little help to get there. But I definitely, can't say enough about our friendship. You're an odd bird. You're taken differently, but I know how to take you, and that's pretty much it. This is going to be a little harder. She's cuter than you. Elle? I missed a lot of your life. A lot. A lot. But I got to do what I wanted to do. And hopefully you see it was for nothing. It wasn't for anything. I love you. You're not helping. Danielle, thank you for being you. You make things calm. Let me vent when I need to vent. Let me scream when I need to scream. Let me do all those things I probably shouldn't do when I'm home, play golf every day. But I greatly appreciate it. My buddies that came from the golf course, you guys are awesome. Dino, you way lost. All right, this is it. Circle of trust. Circle of trust. Dino, 25 years. You are a bad influence. Very bad. There have been many things that I probably never should have went with you to win. Most of them I enjoyed. Actually, probably all of them I enjoyed. DJ, I talk to you more than I talk to anybody in my life. We talk 5 times a day, 10 times a day if you're 5 times a day if you're at my house because I went to the store and you needed something. It's crazy. Michael, you peed on me. No BS, he straight peed on me. 100% he peed on me in the front seat of a car. Didn't even try to fake it. Jesus. And we're still friends. Maldo, you always make us laugh. You're sitting there with that smug look, and you still got your leather coat on like it's 48 degrees outside. You always got the jokes, and, there ain't much else I can say about you. Tom, people like us because we hang out with you because you're the guy that everybody can dislike. But we appreciate you taking the rap for us because now we don't have to be the bad guys. Wesley, you're Mr. Fix-It and the Gentle Giant. You remember directions when no one should remember the directions. But you guys have made this ride so special. So, with that being said, I leave you guys with this. The Circle's little saying. We ride together?
In conclusion, I'd like to thank all of you for coming to honor all the players that were involved. Good time for the speaker to quit. That's okay. It's 10 o'clock. We didn't pay the bill. Everyone, just for what it's worth, we have our 2 television stars on tomorrow. We have Kimberly and Randy. The doors open at 10:30. We have 5 great players. Coley, good luck going forward. Tom, keep them all in line. The Microsoft boys, come down and visit my neighbor Chris Smith. Come over with the house a little bit. I'll show you how to spend some of that money. And other than that, I thank everybody for attending. PBA is going forward, I really believe, bigger and better than ever. And let's enjoy the season, and I'll see you along the road. Thank you very much. All the inductees, I need you on the stage for a class picture, please.